All right, let's talk about life in the future. What are some things that might happen in the next few decades or so? Well, the first thing I want to talk about is globalization. So, I think that the world is already very globalized, which means that we're very connected. People in different countries, different cities, different states, um, they are connected even though we're not all living in the same place. So the globe, the world, seems like a smaller place now because of this connection, this globalization. Things are transmitted and go around to different countries very easily. Like, for example, our movies and TV shows here in the US are watched everywhere, even in the most remote places on the planet. By the way, the word remote refers to something that is far away and isolated. So, even in the most remote places, people watch our movies and listen to our music and things like that. And that's part of globalization. And one thing I think will happen is I think that travel will be easier in some ways. So I think that there are always projects that are in progress to create new trains and high-speed railways and new modes of transportation, new ways to get places faster. I think that that's the trend, right? 50 years ago, we couldn't reach as many places as we can reach now with the same amount of ease. When we say the word ease, we're referring to something being easy, right? So there wasn't the same ease when it came to going to distant places 50 years ago or 70 years ago as there is now. And there are more ways in which different cities are connected and even different countries are connected. So I think that in the future, this will continue and travel will be even easier in that way. It might be harder in some other ways, politically speaking. Maybe there are problems with borders and, wars and political issues and things like that. But in terms of the mode of transportation, the different ways people can get to different places, I think that will be easier. And I think that more places around the world will be open for tourism as countries develop more. So today, there are many countries that can't really receive many tourists because these countries are very poor or have major political issues or just don't have the infrastructure to receive a lot of tourists. Maybe they don't have major airports or whatever it might be. I think that in a few decades or whatever, some of these places will have developed enough so that they can receive tourists. So that means there will be more places to go to, more travel destinations. People will discover new places. So that will also contribute to globalization. And one thing that is maybe a negative about globalization is everything gets smaller and closer and more familiar. And I think people tend to start to become more and more similar to each other, right? The younger generations today in different countries are probably more similar to one another than our grandparents' generations were in different countries. So I think as the years go by and globalization continues, people become more and more and more similar, and that kind of makes things a little less interesting in some ways, right? That's not a huge negative, of course, but for someone like me who's really interested in seeing different and unique things, that can be a little more boring when everyone seems like they're exactly the same, or not exactly the same, but they're very similar. That's a little less interesting, but obviously that's a small negative. And another thing related to globalization that I think will definitely happen is that uh, English will become a stronger and stronger presence around the world, and minor languages will start to disappear little by little. And some smaller languages will completely disappear and will never be spoken again, unfortunately. I don't think this will happen to other major languages. For example, Spanish is not going to disappear anytime soon, right? French is not going to disappear anytime soon. So I'm not talking about those languages, right? I'm talking about languages that have a very small group of people that speak them, or even languages that are not that small, but the people in those countries are starting to speak English more and more. That will also contribute to those languages kind of dying out over time. But I think that English will grow stronger every year. And I think that the other major languages will still have many speakers, and I think that they'll be okay. But English is guaranteed to be the global language, in my opinion. I know some people have different opinions about this. Some people say that it will be Mandarin Chinese in the future or some other language, but I disagree. I think that English is already so embedded all around the world in different industries, the internet, travel. It's so important already that it will be very hard to reverse that or for another language to take its place. I'm not saying that that will never happen in the future. It might, but I'm just thinking a few decades in the future. I think that English is 100% going to be the global language, but I think that people will still be learning English. I don't think that a few decades from now, everyone will speak English. All the young people around the world will have great English. I don't think that's the case. I think more people will speak English, and there will be more people who don't need to learn English actively. But I think that there are many places around the world right now that have a very low English level. And that's not going to completely change in just a few decades, because that usually takes time. And so I think that people will still be learning English. I'll still have a reason to make English content, I think. Maybe I'll have to focus more on the countries and the places that have a lower English level. I don't know. But I'm sure that people will still be learning English in a few decades. But I think that English will be an even stronger presence around the world than it is now. And another thing that I think will happen in the future is I think that many jobs will change. I think most people would agree with me about this topic. So I don't think there will be as many jobs that are just normal service jobs where you're just serving a customer, maybe a cashier or someone who is bringing food to your table or whatever. I think that a lot of these jobs will become automated in the future, and maybe robots will do them. Who knows? But I don't think that this means that everyone is going to lose their jobs in the future. I don't want to make it sound like this is the end of work for everyone. I know that some people push that narrative, but that's not what I'm saying here. By the way, when someone pushes a narrative, this means that they are promoting their idea, okay, their perspective, their opinion about something. So I'm not trying to push that narrative, but I think that many jobs will change, and we won't need the same types of workers then that we do now. So, for example, when I go to the grocery store, I almost always try to go to the self checkout lane and not the checkout with the cashier. And not everyone does this. I think that many people will still always prefer to have a cashier, a person. But I think that a lot of people will change to self checkout, for example. And so we won't need as many cashiers, maybe. So I'm not saying that that job will completely disappear, but what I'm saying is that maybe more employees at that store will be needed to help with the computers and the machines for the self checkout, and there will be problems with those things. So maybe the employees will need to focus less on the customer service aspect of the job and focus more on fixing things or maintaining things. And I think you get my point, right? So there will be a lot more jobs related to technology and automated processes, making sure those are going well. And for example, cybersecurity, that's a huge one. I think that we will need a lot of cybersecurity workers in the future to help keep things safe and protect things. But I think that the necessary skilled trades will still exist. I'm sure of this. For example, when I say a skilled trade, I'm referring to things like plumbers and electricians and mechanics and people like that. These people will always be needed. These people will always have business, and I think that these are really important jobs. So I don't think those are going anywhere anytime soon. I think that we will need plenty of plumbers, plenty of electricians, plenty of mechanics, plenty of landscapers, all those types of professions, right? And one other thing that I think will happen in the future, this is just my prediction, my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think that overall, in general, people's health will decline and treatments will multiply. So, what am I talking about here? Well, I think that we have already seen this over many years now, that people's habits have gotten worse. Not in every way, of course. Some things have really gotten much better. For example, like sanitation and plumbing and things like that, that extended our lives and made our health better drastically. That's probably the greatest invention in terms of human health ever, right? Is uh, clean running water and waste removal and sanitation and plumbing and drainage, washing hands, and everything related to sanitation. That stuff has definitely helped our health. But when it comes to other things, other habits that people have, I think that things have gotten worse, right? People have gotten worse when it comes to their posture, sitting down for many hours every day in front of a computer, looking at screens all day, right? Not needing to walk as much and not moving around as much. All of these types of habits have probably gotten worse all over the world over the years. And of course, these things lead to poor health outcomes, right? An outcome is a result, okay? So there are poor outcomes when you have these bad habits. And people's diet, the food that people eat, has gotten worse over the years, right? If you look at many traditional diets around the world in communities that are more isolated and don't have a lot of contact with industrialization, you see that their diets are much better and their health is much better than just the average person who lives in a big city, right? And that's because as our cities have developed, our processes have developed, we've made our food worse, and we don't eat the same quality food that we ate in the past, right? So I think that as time goes on, this will probably get worse in many countries as many countries maybe develop their processes and their industries more. It will be the same thing everywhere. We'll have mass production of food and huge farms with practices that aren't the best for our health, right? And preservation techniques that aren't healthy, right? And ingredients will be added for preservation and flavor and different things that aren't healthy. So I think that this is the trend. And so I think people's health will get worse. I think that unfortunately that will probably happen. I might be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's my prediction. And I think that there will be a lot of medications and treatments that are invented due to these issues, right? Some of them might be good, and I'm sure a lot of them might not be good. A lot of them might have a lot of side effects or whatever. So I'm sure there will be a big market for treating our declining health, unfortunately. And I'm sure that there will be some breakthroughs in curing certain serious conditions. The word breakthrough refers to when there is suddenly this big change or discovery during some process, and it really helps things move a lot faster, or it changes things completely. So I really hope, and I think there will be some breakthroughs in curing some serious conditions, some serious illnesses. But I also think that we as just independent people, will have to put in the effort to um, do the research and find out about these breakthroughs, these different possible treatments and cures, because we can already see that with some major diseases. For example, cancer. A lot of people assume that cancer is a death sentence, which means that if you have cancer, that means you're going to die. But obviously, that's not true, right? Many people have had cancer and haven't died, and many people have actually cured serious cancers. And you might not ever hear about this if you don't actually do the research yourself and find out about these different types of treatments that have been developed, and different doctors that are doing special things that aren't conventional, maybe. And so there are a number of promising treatments and doctors who have done great things when it comes to treating cancer, but these aren't widely known. And there is actually, unfortunately, a lot of opposition to these types of treatments and doctors. And so you might never hear about them because they're not mainstream and they're not the accepted practices or whatever. So I think that the same thing might happen in the future. We might have some breakthroughs in curing some major diseases, but it won't be that suddenly everyone knows about it and gets this cure if they need it, and then everything is good. It probably won't be like that, unfortunately, for some diseases. But I'm hopeful that there will be some breakthroughs in curing some major conditions. But unfortunately, overall, I think that health will decline around the world. And I hope I'm wrong, but it's what I'm seeing. So that's kind of a negative prediction that I have about the future. But I'll stop there. I talked about a few things, and I'm sure you might agree with me about some of them and disagree about some of the others. But no one knows, really. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode.